What's up, guys? Today we're going to learn three HTTP clients provided by Spring framework. Actually, these three HTTP clients are very popular and commonly used. Yeah. So before I show you how to use them in Spring Boot application, let's check first what's the difference between these three API. First, let's start with the REST template. REST template is, according to this reference, medium. Later, I will post it in our YouTube description, so don't worry about that. So, according to this reference, REST template is a synchronous REST client performing HTTP requests using a simple template style API. It uses JDK HTTP URL connection and Apache HTTP components under the hood. We can get REST template class from Spring Web dependency. The other HTTP client is called FeignClient. This is another REST client that makes writing web clients easier. When we using the Feign, we have to define only the interfaces and annotate them accordingly. The actual web client implementation is then provided by Spring at runtime. Behind the scenes, the Feign client annotation makes a synchronous HTTP request, and it is based on thread per request architectural decision and design. So the last one is the web client. This is an asynchronous and non-blocking REST invoker, which is the opposite of REST template and Feign client. It executes the HTTP request and adds a waiting for response task into a queue. Later, the waiting for response task is executed from the queue after the response is received, finally delivering the response to the subscriber function. So there is no more threads in waiting state. All right. So let's go to the code. I'll show first. Let me show you how to use the REST template. Okay. First, let's go to our dependency. To use REST template, basically you just need this dependency. Spring Boot starter web, and that's it. Spring Boot starter web. Then first we don't later we will use this, but for REST template we don't need this one. Okay, so basically to use REST template, we basically need only this this dependency only, Spring Boot starter web. Then okay, of course for us to be able to test, we need a controller. So let me remove first what we don't need here. REST controller. Oh, I think we need to refresh. Okay, so we need to test our REST template. We need REST. Of course, we need a REST controller, and of course the Spring Boot application, right? Foreign client, enable foreign clients. Later we need this, but for REST template we don't need this one. Okay, so for now let's create a simple endpoint. Right, so let's call it test1 for our simple endpoint. Sorry about that, to demonstrate you how to use the REST template. Okay, so basically yeah, we use REST template like this. So as you can see, this REST template is coming from this package, Spring Web Client. Okay, so yeah, it's basically like this. You create an instance of the API REST template. Then if you're calling a get, excuse me, if you're going to an HTTP using a get method, you can use this method get for entity. But for example, you want a you want to call HTTP using a post method. There is get, I think there is post, yeah, like this. So instead of get for entity, you can use post for entity. Okay, if the HTTP method that you want to use is post, then you use this method instead of this. Okay, but there is another method here called exchange. This one, this exchange method can be you can use not only get, post. You can specify here, for example, HTTP, yeah, you can basically pass or specify whichever HTTP method you want to use. Could be put, post. These are the these are the most common these are the possible HTTP method that you can use basically. But in real world, we normally what we use is only get and post, right? There are some scenario where we use also other HTTP method like put, yeah. But yeah, these are the available HTTP method that we can use. Okay, so for the sake of our demonstration, I will just show you the most basic HTTP method, which is get. So if you want to uh, call uh, if you want to call an HTTP using get HTTP method, using get HTTP method, yeah, we can simply use this one. Okay, so let's run this and test. Okay, all right, this should work. Okay, so we are in this demo we are going to call this URL. So let's see. So first let's call the URL directly. Okay, let's see what we get. HTTP bin org uuid. So if we call it directly, this is what we get. This is the response that we get. Okay, so basically this is URL will return this response, uuid response. Now let's call our Spring Boot endpoint. This one, instead of calling this URL, we call our application Spring Boot application. Okay, HTTP localhost, the port is 8080. Okay, 8080, then the endpoint is test1. So we expect the same output. Okay, all right, so meaning our REST template is working. All right, so let's proceed to our next HTTP client, which is FeignClient. So this FeignClient is also the same as the template. This is also a blocking and synchronous invoker, unlike the web client. But this one, the difference between REST template and FeignClient is that FeignClient is using an interface and annotation. Unlike in the RestTemplate, we have a concrete class called RestTemplate, right? Like this. We create an instance of RestTemplate and we use that to call a REST API. Okay, like this. But as I said, FeignClient is different approach. But then again, both of them are synchronous and blocking REST invoker. Okay, so if we want to use the FeignClient, basically we need to add this dependency, open Feign. This is provided by Spring work Spring Cloud, basically Spring Cloud. Okay, so the group ID is org Spring Framework Cloud. Okay, the artifact is Spring Cloud Starter Open Feign. Yeah, so this is basically the dependency that we require for FeignClient. Then of course we need to create an interface. This is how we do this. So yeah, we need to use an annotation called FeignClient. Yeah, and this annotation we have to define. We have to specify a name for this client. We can put any name you want. Then the URL, we need to map it to which URL we want to call. Okay, so in our case, this one, http bit.org. Then we need to define also the http, the specific path, http path. Okay, as you can see here, this is the complete path, right? So we break it down. The first part is the host only. The second part is the path. Okay, I hope it's clear. So basically that's it. Then to test this, open this FeignClient, we simply call this interface like this. First we inject in our controller, we inject the interface. Let's auto wire it. Yeah. Okay, we auto wire this is the interface that we created, Feign demo. Okay, so we basically inject it. So we basically define the interface, then the framework will behind the scene will create the instance for us. We just need to define the interface. Okay, we don't need to care about the instance. Okay, all right, so once we define the interface, we auto wire it to our main controller. Then we can define our second endpoint to test our FeignClient. Okay, then after defining our endpoint, we call the Feign interface that we created, and that's it. We get the response from this HTTP API, or should I say endpoint. From this endpoint we can get the response. Okay, all right, so let's test this. So this time, instead of calling test1, we call test3. Okay, because this is the name of our this endpoint is the one calling our FeignClient interface. All right, so the same port 8080 endpoint is test3. We expect same output like this, because our interface is mapped to this to the same URL basically, and same path. That's why our output will be the same as the test one, as the previous basically the same as this. Okay, all right, so let's hit our test3 endpoint. Oh, we have some error here. Oh, I know, sorry about that. We forgot to enable. This is another requirement of FeignClient. We need to enable it. There's another annotation, Spring Boot annotation, that we need to enable it. It's under this package, org Spring Framework Cloud Open Feign. So without this annotation, by default it is disabled, so we need to enable it. All right, so let's run it again. Then we hit again the test tree. All right, see, we get the expected response. Okay, then let's proceed to the last HTTP client, which is the web client. Okay, this one, as I said earlier, this is the opposite of these two HTTP client, because this one is asynchronous and non-blocking REST invoker. Okay, so for this one, the dependency we need is this one, WebClient, Spring Boot Starter WebClient. Okay, all right, then once we enable the WebClient dependency, you can use this web client API. Okay, this one. So this one is this web client actually is returning this object flux. So if we have some, in our case, where our HTTP is returning string, right? So this is the generic type of our API. So that's why we use flux string. But of course, if we have other requirements, let's say other object, so instead of using string, we use that whatever object we require. Okay, so yeah, basically this is the syntax. Web client create, this is a static method. Then since we are using HTTP methods, then we use get, then we specify the URI, right? URI including the host and the path. Okay, then we call the retrieve method, and the type of the response. In our case, we expect a string only. Okay, and that's it. So once we call this API, it basically call this URL and return the response. So this is the what we return. This is what we return to the client, and to verify that this is really asynchronous and non-blocking, let's uncomment this one. As you can see, before we hit this, or before we reach this, how do I say it? Before it reaches the client, it will basically print this out first before it goes here, because this is a event based, this is non-blocking, right? Non-blocking. So we expect this line will be print first before it prints this. All right, so let's verify it. Let's test. So let's see, let's step 1, step 2. So let's spec like this, since this, just to verify that this is really non-blocking and this is an asynchronous call. Because if this is the other way around, if this is blocking, this line should be like it will be executed synchronously, or one time, how do I say it, in this order actually, right? This line first, and then this line, right? But since this is not as not synchronous, or should I say this is asynchronous, it's the other way around, right? This will execute first before this. Okay, let's verify that concept. That's right. So again, we expect the same output because we are calling the same URL only. But this one, we are going to call this endpoint test2. Okay, test2. When we hit this endpoint, we will in our console, we will see this step 1 and step 2. Okay, to prove that this is really an asynchronous call. All right, see the output, the same output, UUID. Then as I said, this one is printed first, step 1, exiting, non-blocking, then is step 2. See, so it's very clear in our log that this is really an asynchronous call. Okay, all right. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learn how you call this important lesson today. See you. I'll see you again next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.